Hey fams, my name's Elizabeth. I'm a dyslexia interventionist, former teacher, homeschool mom, and I want to talk to you today about my leader guide for families to start their own book club for early readers. Now, this is a 14-page PDF that you can get from my teacher store or from my website, school.readinggardenclub.com, where I provide early reading resources for families. This is actually my first YouTube video that I've actually created for YouTube in maybe a year or two or a couple of years, because I was just exploring other social media and wasn't really sure how to maximize my presence on YouTube. So I'm going to be trying different things out for the next few months. And if you like this video, please go ahead and like it so I know what you guys would benefit from when it comes to early reading resources and videos that you want to actually watch via YouTube. So I'm still available on a couple other social media platforms if you're looking for a more short style format of tips. I'm still doing TikTok, and drop a comment below if you really want me to exist on Facebook, but y'all, it hasn't been going well and I've been there for years. So, why do you want this book club leader guide? Because you want to start a book club for young children in your neighborhood, in your school, in your library, somewhere in your community, in a homeschool co-op that already exists. You want to build a homeschool group around the Reading Garden club that you're going to start. Maybe you actually have a garden club and you want to make it a reading focused subset of your garden club for children because you're an older person or person in the community that wants to give back. And so I want this to be a resource for any of those groups. Okay. So first of all, it has this little pretty cover. Then you're going to open up and it actually has a table of contents. Okay. I printed this double-sided, but I guess this paper is really cheap. The sunlight's coming through, so you can kind of see through to the other side. But yeah, you just download it. You don't have to print it, but this is the pages you're gonna get. So let's start with the first page, which is basically a welcome letter for parents. Now, let me read what it says. I'm not going to read everything in this PDF download because you can get it yourself. But I think this will help you decide if a reading garden club, as opposed to a typical book club, is the kind of book club you want to start for your community of early readers. It says, Reading Garden Clubs for Early Readers. Welcome, parents. A Reading Garden Club is a community of readers that love to read in outdoor garden spaces. A Reading Garden Club focuses on celebrating reading and gardening together. It is called a club, so early readers feel like they belong. I think this is so important. And just so you guys know, while I couldn't carry probably out every thing I recommend in this Reading Garden Club guide, I am and have been running more than one book club for my child as she's been growing up. In the beginning was like basically I helped run a homeschool co-op that my child was part of, and we would have read aloud sessions. We do all kinds of reading activities together. So I saw like the co-op as the Reading Garden Club, including reading outside if I could get them to. And then we gardened together. So that was like my first iteration of a Reading Garden Club. And then I realized not everyone has a garden or not everyone has a dedicated garden space, maybe. And so, like, how do I make this idea of a Reading Garden Club basically a book club, right? that could be outside, that I want to encourage to be outside, but it doesn't have to be. So why start a reading garden club? Reading garden clubs have many benefits for active early readers. Children run and get as loud as needed outside while also being able to read in the peaceful environment that nature provides. Early readers build strong friendships in a reading garden club, find joy in reading, and have fun outside. Now go find your reading garden club or reading garden people. Happy reading. And then I sign off. All right, next page. That's page 1, y'all. Page 2 says getting started. Basically, you're going to use this as a checklist of things you need to discuss and decide on to actually start a reading garden club. Some things you need to discuss and decide on with other families that you want to invite, or decide on by yourself because you want it to be something you know you can sustain by yourself, and so you don't need to check in with anyone else. It needs to be sustainable for you as a leader, or if there will be more than one leader, do this together, right? Outdoor location, meeting frequency. Are you going to meet once per week or monthly? The form of communication. Are we going to create a group chat? We're going to create a group chat via WhatsApp. Are we going to just do emails? What are you going to do? Introduction meeting, structure, duration, how you choose the books, calendars, calendar invites, things like that. Okay? So a whole checklist of things. Then the next page is about meeting logistics. What are the meetings actually going to look like? This is so important because when the children are there is not the time for you and any other possible book club leaders to be discussing those details. You kind of want to have at least the first meeting truly planned to the details, because you don't want the anxiety that can come with unstructured time with a bunch of children that may not be yours. And that anxiety be the reason why you don't want to do another meeting, or that lack of structure be the reason why parents don't want to come to another unstructured event. A book club is going to have some expectations from the families that join, and that the leadership, if you choose to download this leader guide, it's because you probably want to be the leader, hasn't figured it out, right? When you as a leader hasn't figured some of these details out, even in a first meeting where you're asking them to contribute to making some of the decisions, they're not going to come back. So I just want to highly advise that the 3 areas that you want to make sure you fully know what you want to do, or you're going to outline as options to families to vote on, and how that vote's going to look, like all of that. You want to decide on location, form of communication, and the meeting duration. And then the actual contents of like the reading activity you're going to do in that first meeting definitely needs to be outlined. But that's just like your general meeting logistics you want to outline for yourself or the group. Then you're going to go on with more meeting logistics, which also includes an agenda. Okay, an agenda that you clearly show parents, even if you don't show children. The parents will want to know. Now, you may not need to change this agenda every single time. I have a general agenda that I'm giving families as a sample. It's a sample meeting structure with some ideas on things that you guys can do in this PDF download. But it doesn't have to look like this. This is a 30-minute meeting, sample meeting structure. You could have a reading garden club that's 10-minute meeting, because some books will really be that short, or some children's attention spans might really be that short. And so you really want to be thoughtful when you're planning that, okay? And know that 30 minutes is not a gold standard. It's just a sample. Then you really wanted to think about what people you can leverage to help make this a community experience, right? What neighbors, what other adults, what family members, what retired folk that want to boss you around about your children. They might as well become leaders in your reading garden club and be able to boss people around in the club as opposed to how you raise your children, right? Like, so grandparents, aunties with unsolicited advice, they are really great reading garden club people. They really are. And then give them a job, an assigned role, okay? Or let them, elect themselves. Which role do you want? Which of these? Okay, but then stay in your lane. If you're going to be the safety leader because you're that helicopter grandma, be the safety leader, okay? But there needs to be someone at the top. And so if you're going to be the club leader, you're going to be the club leader. Know your role, what your position is, and anyone else you recruit, give them a role with duties, not just help me out. How? You don't want other adults to be like, I came to help, but you're scrambling around looking crazy. I can't read your mind. I don't know how you want help, right? So think about back in the day when we ran our own clubs in high school. Do y'all remember that? I don't know if high schools still do that. I know the last high school I worked at did not, and I was very shocked. I mean, they tried, but it was not student run. It was a lot of adults running activities after school that, because the adults ran, felt uncomfortable. I think for children, teens are children, but for those older children to feel comfortable being themselves sometimes, or, wanting to come back because it felt more like school. So know that these roles, if you're a millennial, at least like me, you may have done some of this back when you were in high school, and if you joined any extracurricular clubs. Those kind of roles, right? Historian, who's going to be the holder of attendance so we know who came, anything like that. Someone to be in charge of assigning different families snack duty if you guys want snacks to be part of the reading garden club, and you want to have a volunteer manager who runs that part of the reading garden club. However complex you want it to be, you could make it that complex or as simple as just, y'all, I'm going to choose a book. We're going to read it for 10 minutes and then talk about it, and then they're going to run around. I don't really need help except make sure your child stays still for the whole entire 10 minutes. That might be a role for every parent to play, and you need to be clear about that, right? So this guide is really just to help you think through all those details, right? And if you're like, wait, it's a reading garden club for little children, I thought it would be easy. It will be. Don't worry, especially if you got the guide. You're going to think this through, and then when you're there, it really will be as easy, as long as you've just thought it through before you start in front of a whole bunch of hyper young children, okay? It's just really thinking through it before you're in front of the hyper young children and having fun with them, right? You want to have fun too, so think through this stuff before you're in front of the children. So here's some good reader questions, right? Here's some ways of thinking about how are you going to talk about the book after you read it. Now, if you never thought about, in a book club, you talk about books even with little kids, yes. Not just before, but also during the read aloud or the reading and after. So, like, how do you think about questioning them? And these are generic questions. They're not specific to any book. And then, because this is young, early readers, children, you also want to be intentional if you can, and if you have time for it, and if it's a more complex or planned book club than, the one I gave the example of, where you're just bringing a book, setting a time, and going for it, right? Then you can intentionally use the book club to teach good reading habits, such as good readers pause at periods and you exaggerate that for that session or a group of sessions where you're modeling these skills. Good readers handle books carefully. Maybe you have a session where you teach them how to be a good librarian. Then more recommended club activities with some visuals to give you just like some ideas on like how to think outside the box. More recommended club activities on page 9. So you see how to choose a book, right? Whether it's maybe you just choose and readers show up. Maybe it's you expect them to read the book before they show up. Maybe the book club's online and you don't have to worry about anyone having a copy of the book. Or maybe it's online and you want everyone to have a copy of book, but how are we going to have equal access? This one's really important to already know what kind of book club you want it to be. Whether it's we bring the book, y'all have to do nothing, or you bring the book and have pre-read it, which requires a lot more planning and logistics so you can be fair to all families and they can come prepared and their child doesn't feel left out because you had this expectation that they were supposed to read the book and the family couldn't afford the book, couldn't find the book in time, whatever the situation may come up. You want to try to like iron out those details and troubleshoot them before they happen, because that's a fast way to lose a young reader, when they're embarrassed in front of everyone else. And then a fun reading garden heroes quiz. Are you a reading garden hero? Right? Like, and these are just ways I want to challenge families to think, and that you could have as an activity, right? Like, just print this out and give this to families every like year at the beginning of your book club, or just to check in. I want to know where you were in September, and I want to know where you are at May. Do you have more yeses than nos by the end of the year? Is this reading garden club modeling enough ways for you to be a reading garden hero with your child by the end of the year? Like, there's so many ways to leverage this as a tool with families, but some of the questions you're going to ask families to know if they're a reading garden hero is, I give books as gifts rather than toys, right? You want to encourage that. I share books with my community. We want to encourage that. I'm teaching my child to read. I want to encourage that. And hopefully your book club too. And then the last few pages is actually just blanks for you to plan your meetings. And you can print this out as many times as you need and plan it together. And then a meeting review, like a debrief after the meeting. Maybe you want parents to fill this out, or you and the leadership team fill this out. But that is what you'll get in this, I believe, 14 page. Was that 14 pages? Yep. Including the cover page, a 14-page PDF download available at school.readinggardenclub.com. And if you have any questions, practical questions, philosophical questions, whatever, logistical questions about how to start your own reading garden club with young early readers, let me know. You don't need to get the guide. If it's a simple question I can answer, I'll answer it for you. But if you want a tool that you can use with other families, this already exists. Happy reading, fams. Oh, before I log off, I also want to make sure, shameless plug, that I tell families, if you are teaching your child to read or considering it, that you check out my Teach Your Child to Read, a Mommy and Me coloring book, which I authored and illustrated. It is a 89-page guide, okay, for families to teach their child to read, right? So, guide, even with a table of contents for parents to see what they're going to get in this coloring book, but also the tool you use to teach your child, like P, peek, P. Then by this point, they've learned it, sip, and they're able to put alphabet sounds that you're teaching them together into real words really rapidly. So if you have any questions about this as well, you can comment below, and hopefully we'll get to know each other more. Any new people, please feel free to subscribe. If you have a child that's an early reader, you're considering homeschooling a young child, or just need some reading tips because you're an educator and you want some fun ones from an educator that really believes in teaching through play and still doing structured literacy. So this is structured literacy or phonics. Happy reading, fams, for real.